Welcome back to the podcast, guys. In this episode, I'm talking about transcription and how transcription can help boost your SEO and help with accessibility on the web. By transcribing your podcast, you're making it available to listeners and readers alike. And the more written content you have on the web, the more visibility that you're going to get for your podcast. Some people like to read. And secondly, some people can't hear, they're hard of hearing. And so by transcribing your podcast, you're making it more accessible for everybody who wants to consume your podcast content. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the benefits of transcribing your podcast, where to transcribe your podcast, and how transcription can help increase downloads, can help increase revenue. It can help grow your podcasting community. First, let's start off with people who are hard of hearing. Maybe there's someone who is hard of hearing and they're looking to consume your podcast. Since they can't listen to it, they're going to be looking on your website at your transcription and they can follow along. There's also people on commutes to work, maybe on a train or a bus, where they can't quite hear all of your podcasts because they're in a loud environment, in which case maybe they're going to read along while they listen and pick up bits and pieces from both. And maybe there's somebody at work who's not allowed to wear headphones, but who really likes your podcast. They're going to be able to read through the transcription and still consume what you're saying. It's just an advantage for you. It gives people who like to read, it gives people who are hard of hearing access to your podcast. And I know in 2022, we like to talk about accessibility. And I think being accessible to everyone will just in turn help you grow your show. You'll get more people in your community, into your ecosystem, consuming your content, and hopefully helping you monetize your podcast. Next is SEO. Transcription can boost SEO because it gives you more keywords on the web. In a podcast, however, podcast transcriptions contain tons of keywords. So for instance, in this episode, I'm talking about transcription, and I've probably said dozens of keywords already related to podcast transcription. And so when people are Googling, should I transcribe my podcast, how to transcribe my podcast, ideally the blog post or the transcription for this episode will pop up. Google's getting better at indexing audio, meaning people can type in search words and podcasts relating to those search words will come up. But first and foremost, they index written content. So the more written content pertaining to your podcast, aka your transcription, that's available on the web, the better chance you're going to have of popping up when people type in search words relating to that episode. That's going to help you get more listeners. It's going to help you get more eyes and ears on your show. Another great benefit of transcription is you can repurpose your transcription into blog posts. And so what I like to do is I like to get my podcast transcribed. I'll copy paste it into WordPress and then I'll reformat it into a blog post. And so spoken content often sounds different. It doesn't really translate well word for word to written content. How someone talks is different how someone likes to type and likes to read. And so I'll transcribe it and then I'll go in and I'll edit it and format it in more of a blog post version that makes more sense for written content. And so that's already two pieces of content. If you transcribe your episode, you're getting the full transcription and then you're able to repurpose that into a blog post. So that's two pieces of content. And I know in the podcasting world, we like to get as many pieces of content as we can from a single episode. And so repurposing for blogs is going to be huge. Also, repurposing for show notes. Maybe you don't have a blog for your podcast, and maybe you don't have a blog for your podcast, but you definitely are writing show notes. And so what you can do is, if you're not a great writer or you get stuck or you just want to make the process easier, is you get it transcribed and then pull out what you want for the show notes. You can reformat, you can put bullet points, condense it a lot, make it just a couple hundred words, following the typical show note practices that most people in the podcasting world use. Maybe one intro paragraph explaining what the episode is about, or introducing a guest, a second paragraph outlining what the podcast is about. Then maybe some bullet points, some links to resources mentioned in the episode, links to your website, to books, to affiliate stuff. That's 3 pieces of content from one transcription. So actually it's 4. That's 4 pieces of content because you got your podcast episode, audio, you've got the transcription that you can put on your website. Now you've repurposed that into a blog post and you've also repurposed it into show notes. So that's 4 pieces of content from a podcast if you count the podcast itself. And so you might be wondering, where do you go to transcribe your podcast? Well, I'm going to list the service that I use. It's called Rev. That's rev.com. And within Rev, there's several options that you have. You can generate an AI-based transcription. And in this case, it's probably going to be like 85% accurate. If you do this, it's cheaper, number one. But number two, you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to edit it and, fix some of the grammar, fix some of the typos. And so there's a little bit of legwork involved, but you're going to save money. If you want to go the fully, 99% accuracy word for word, you're going to have a human do it. And I think what they do is they first generate the AI version of the transcript, and then they go in and edit. And Rev can do this for you. That's REV. When you log in, you'll have several options of how the format, several options of the way you'd like to transcribe the podcast. If you'd like a human to do it, it's $1.25 per minute using Rev. Not quite sure of the AI generated content, but I know that transcription is a lot cheaper. So it depends on your budget, depends on how you like to work and how much time you want to put into your transcription. There's several other like AI and human transcription services available. So I use rev.com. Here's 3 additional sites that you can use to get your podcast transcribed. The first one is otter.ai. They have automated and human generated transcripts. The next is Scribby. That's scribby.com. Great for automated transcripts and human transcripts. The next one is Descript. You can automatically generate a transcript again, or you can pay for like a white glove service where a human does it 99% accurate. Another option is using your podcast hosting platform to transcribe. I know a lot of hosting platforms are starting to offer transcription as part of their service. Here's several podcasting platforms that offer transcription as part of their packages. You might have to level up to get this. I'm not sure, but I wanted to put this on your radar because I know that these hosts do offer transcription. The first is Simplecast. Second is Podbean. Then we have Castos. Then we have Omni Studio. We have Spreaker. And we have Sounder.fm. So let's say you don't want to subscribe to like a different like a new service like Rev or Scribby or Otter. It seems like nowadays we have so many different monthly things that we're subscribed to. It can be a pain in the ass. Oftentimes you don't even know where your money's going. You'll look at your statement, you'll be like, damn, I transcribed, or you'll be like, damn, I subscribed to that like months ago. I don't use it and I'm still getting billed for it. So doing it through your hosting platform is a great option. It's one less step, one less thing to sign up for. So check those out. That's it for this episode, guys. If you're feeling the podcast, would love for you to rate and review on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Next week, I've got a guest on the show, Dylan Schmidt. He is from digitalpodcaster.com and he runs a company called Content Clips. We're going to be talking about repurposing your podcast. I figured it went well with this because we're talking about repurposing your podcast in the written form. With Dylan, we're going to be talking about repurposing audio and video.